Okay, welcome to quad tutorial number 5. Last tutorial, we factored things like x squared minus 5x. Now we see in this tutorial that we've got an equal sign and a 0. So we're in an equation, and now we're going to use what we know about factoring out the greatest common factor to solve for x. So here we go. When I look at this binomial, I know I can factor out an x, and I have x minus 5 left. I can always check myself by distributing, and if I distribute, I get right back to the beginning, what's on the left side of the equation. And so what's the cool thing about factoring is, if we look at this original problem, we see that we've got a minus sign here. So it's basically saying something minus something equals 0. Well, that's, if we were to guess about, I wonder what something and minus something is. Is it 10 minus 10 equals 0, or 90 minus 90 equals 0? We can't possibly even begin to guess what those two values would be. But now, because we factored it, we have something times something equals 0. So if we think about having two things that when you multiply them equals 0, well, we know at least one of those things has to be 0. And that's a way to explain a property called the multiplicative property of 0. Just if you're multiplying two things, you know that you're guaranteed, and you know they're equal to 0, then you're guaranteed that at least one of them is equal to 0. So we're going to use that. We're going to say, well, either then x equals 0 or x minus 5 equals 0. And we don't have to solve for x here. It is solved. We add 5 to both sides, and we get two answers, either x equals 0 or x equals 5. If we wanted to check ourselves, we could plug in to both x's. We could plug in 0. 0 squared minus 5 times 0. If you plug that in your calculator, you'd get it's equal to 0. Yep, that works. If you were to plug 5 in, 5 squared minus 5 times 5, yep, that also equals 0. These are the two values that work when the one side is equal to 0. These are the two values that give us 0. All right, so marker board practice. If you don't have your marker board and marker and wipe with you, go ahead and pause this video and get that. You'll need a calculator as well. And once you get the marker board and stuff, you need to go ahead and pause the video, do this problem, and then unpause it and check your answer. Okay, we're back. So we factor. We know that either x is equal to 0 or x plus 7 is equal to 0. And oops, I should have, you don't have to show that step, the subtracting 7 from both sides, that's up to you. But I've got two answers that work, either x equals 0 or x equals negative 7. So go ahead and, let's move back to the notes, solve the following. So I look at this, and now I have a coefficient. Just like last time, I'm going to look at the number first, just like the last tutorial. What goes into 6 and 15, the biggest number we can think of? That's right, 3 is the biggest number. Then what's the biggest x we can factor out when we have x squared and x? Well, the biggest x that's common to both of them is just x. So you have a choice here. Either you can go to the side and divide by what you're factoring out, right? That would be a 2x. Or you could just play the game of, hey, what should I put on that line? So when I distribute, I get back to 6x squared. Because, right, factoring is the same thing as undistributing. And then I'll go ahead and just do this over here. We know we have a minus. But I'll do this method over here so that people can see that there is another method besides just not guessing, but just kind of trial and error, saying, hey, what do I need to put here so that when I distribute, I do get a negative 15x? So now I have something times something equals 0. So either 3x equals 0 or 2x minus 5 equals 0. So we have a little bit more work to do here. Okay, x equals 0. And there you have it, those two answers. I know I work quickly on these tutorials, so if you need to pause it and slow it down or even rewind it, that's the beauty of the tutorial and me going quickly. Some people like just their brains are like rapid fire. They like to work at a fast pace, and some brains, even though they may be very intellectual brains, like a slower pace. So please take advantage of that and slow this down. Or well, you can't really slow it down, but you can pause it and you can go backwards. All right, let's switch over to the marker boards and pause this. And when you have your answer on your marker board, unpause it. All right, welcome back. 4 and 18, what's the biggest number that goes into both of them? A 2. X squared and x, what's the biggest x that goes into both of them? Just x. So 2x is my greatest common factor. I'm going to say 2x times what gives me 4x squared? 2x times 2x. I'm going to bring down the minus. 2x times what gives me 18x? 2x times 9x. I'm sorry. No. 2x times 9, not 9x. But all right. So now I have something times something equals 0, which means either 2x equals 0 or 2x minus 9 equals 0. So I've got x equals 0 or x equals 9/2. Both answers work. That's why for this quadratic equation, there are 2 answers. All right, so let's look at this. This is different because it's a trinomial, right? We were looking at binomials before with 2 terms. Now there's 3 terms. That's a trinomial. Let's look at the numbers first. If I look at a 2, a 4, and a 10, what's the biggest number that goes into all 3? That's right, it's a 2. I'm kind of moving ahead because I see x squared, x, and then no x. What's the biggest x you can pull out? You can't pull out an x. You can't factor out an x because this last term doesn't have one. So if all 3 things have to have, whatever you're factoring out, all 3 things have to have that in common. And the last one doesn't have an x, so we can't pull that out. Now I just feel like I've just left a mess up here. So let's see, if we factor out a 2, 2 times what gives me 2x squared? 2 times x squared. 2 times what gives me negative 4x? 2 times negative 2x. 2 times what gives me 10? 2 times 5. All right, so then we'd set this up. We'd get something ridiculous. 2 equals 0? I think not. We're not going to get a solution from that. But then we have x squared minus 2x plus 5 equals 0. We don't have a method yet for solving this type of equation, but I wanted to introduce you to it because it gives you an idea that there's more to learn when solving quadratic equations. All right, I think that's it. Thanks for joining me. Have fun practicing, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.